This guy right here started out when I met him and has changed my life, okay? There's one word to describe him, unkillable. He's gone through dozens of account shutdowns. He's absolutely done everything possible to keep making money online. He's launched a second software company after launching restricted inventory, selling other people's textbooks. He's selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of wholesale right now. He's still jumping into private label, and he's also the only reason this event is happening. Give it up for Avery Romer the Romer!
Tell them bring another round, we need plenty more. Two stepping on the table, she don't need a dance floor. Oh my, good Lord. Someone pour me up a double shot of whiskey.
Let's give it up for these camera guys right here. Luis and Zach.
There's a party downtown near 5th Street. Everybody at the bar getting tipsy.
All right. My journey started years ago when I was in college, and I went online on Google, back before ChatGPT existed. All these kids can cheat with ChatGPT now. And I searched how to make money online. Who here has done this before? Say I. And I was in my college library, and I actually was a pretty good student in college, unlike high school. And I would get all my homework done, and then afterwards, I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to make money online. And I remember searching that, and I found this article, and there was like 25 ways to make money online, and one of them was affiliate marketing. So I'm like, okay, people click on links on my website, I get a commission, and I get paid for them just clicking on links. Boom, easy, I'm gonna do that. Never ended up making any money doing it, didn't even get the website set up, but I continued to look for different ways to make money. And who here has read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Say I. Who here knows a quadrant? Say I. All right, so I'm in college, and I'm reading this, and I'm looking at the poor dad side of the column and the rich dad side. And the poor dad side says, if you're an employee, you're always working for somebody else. You can't make money for yourself. Yeah, you're getting paid, but you don't really own the business. It doesn't operate in your absence. The next one's self-employed. That's where you put hours in and you get paid money out. Now, a lot of us have achieved business owner status, which is where you have a business that operates in your absence if you do a good job. And then the last phase is an investor, which is where you just give money and the money comes back to you as more. And I literally remember reading this, and it just fucked up my whole college experience, because I'm like, I'm gonna be an employee forever if I go this route. If I graduate, get my physical therapy degree, go to graduate school, everything, I'm gonna be stuck as an employee unless I start my own physical therapy business. But even then, why the fuck would I be using my degree if I'm running a business? If I'm running a physical therapy business and hiring other physical therapists, I don't need to learn about this stuff. And so I continued to look for different ways to make money. And this was completely unrelated. I did not start selling my books on Amazon to make money. I did not think this was going to be a path to wealth. But what I did was I looked up, I went to the bookstore. Who here has ever taken their college books to the college bookstore and asked for money? They pay a lot, right? They offered me $5 for my organic chemistry book that I used my mom's credit card to pay $200 for. So what I did was I started selling all my books on Amazon, and then I started selling all my friends' books too. And I was an idiot. I would sell my wrestling teammates' books, and if it sold for $100, I'd pay them $50. I didn't know about Amazon fees and all that. I didn't know I was paying $20 in fees. I'd be like, oh yeah, it sold for $100, bro. I'd Venmo them $50, and that was how I started my business. And I remember one day, I looked up how to make shipments, and this guy just kept popping up. And I remember watching the video, and I'm like, is this a fucking MLM scheme? Why is he talking about FBA? Why is he promoting FBA shipments? Why is this a thing? I'm like, does he get a commission off me signing up for Amazon? I don't really understand why he's pushing this so hard. But I'm like, I've made money selling books. I know he's probably not lying. And he said that the books would sell for more. Where's Reezy at, by the way? Mike, you in here? He's probably still putting his slides together. He's up next. he's in 2, actually. And I went to the library, and there was a free library outside of the library at the college, and I packed up every free book in a box and shipped it to Amazon FBA. Guess how many books sold? None. Over a year, I think all the books were an average sales rank of 5 million. Didn't know anything about that, but luckily, the college textbooks I was selling started my foundation and really actually helped me build a 7-figure book business down the road. So I graduated, and I didn't think too much of the book thing. I was like, whatever. I made some money flipping books, but I'm going to follow my passion. And like I said, I coached wrestling, 3 months of hard work, $1,800, and I remember my wrestling coach said, hey, he used to call me Chump Boy. He's like, hey, Chump Boy, your check should be in the mail. Sorry, it's not as much as we thought. $1,800 for 3 months of work. And I was like, fuck this, I'm out. I'm going to go live in my car. I took a wrestling mat from the school, put it down in the front seat, and traveled across the country, slept in Walmart parking lots. I took this as a rite of passage as a young man. I said, I'm going to figure out how to fucking make this work. I'm going to go live on my own, in my car, go to thrift stores. Shout out Caleb Roth and Reezy. I'm going to pack books in boxes. That's going to fund my trip. I'm not going to take $1 more from my parents. And here's all the thrift stores I visited in America. I'm just kidding. That's just from Google Images. And so then I was in Arizona, actually. And I remember I saw Reezy and Caleb were putting on an event. And I was thinking, man, that's $200. That's fucking expensive for an event. Who would pay $200 for an event? Say aye. I had a credit card with a limit of $4,000. I had $1,000 cash in the bank. My credit card was already at $3,000 from KFC, Chipotle, gas, and used books from thrift stores. And so I put another $200 on it, went to the conference, walked in late, had flip-flops on, and I sat next to Caleb Roth and a girl from MIT. Both super smart people, high IQ. And I'm just thinking, like, man, like, maybe this whole book thing is like I could really make a lot of money doing this. Like, he seems to be pretty well off. He quit his job working in the medical field to do this. And a girl from fucking MIT sitting next to me flipping books on Amazon. Like, what's going on here? And then I got my money's worth there. And I just continued to pay to go to these events. I paid another $200, flew out to Vegas. My book business was doing pretty good then. And then we did breakout sessions. And so Caleb, shout out to him, he had all the speakers come up and he said, Steve Rakin, you go over here. Bulk book guys, go over there. And everybody did open Q&A. And this is what I really want you guys to take advantage of today. Welcome, Grand Rising, Mike Resendez. Let's give it up for Reezy Resales coming in. Woo! You missed the part where I was talking about you seemed like a scam talking about FBA. Yeah. MLM. and so Steve was over there, bulk book guys over there, and everyone went to the bulk book guys and nobody went to Steve. But I had heard through the grapevine that Steve made $100,000 net profit in 30 days, take home. And so I went over there and just drilled him. I had my YouTube channel. I probably had like 800 subs. And I'm like, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? How'd you do this? How'd you do this? And this is a key for networking, guys. Who here wants to learn how to network better? Say aye. I was like, I'm going to get this guy's phone number. So I asked him all these questions, tried to figure it out. I said, yo, bro, like, let's exchange numbers and shoot some videos. He's like, here's my Instagram. Gives me his IG. I message him, goes to requested. I'm stuck in requested for a few months. Eventually work my way through. I think I sent a picture of like some bald salsa guy playing a violin in Nashville. And finally, Steve responded to my message. I lied to him, told him I was around the corner. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm in your neighborhood. Let's shoot some YouTube videos. I was 14 hours away. He said, yeah, come through. Drove 14 hours, slept on his floor. There's more about that. But anyway, fast forward, we ended up living together right across the street here in Miami. And we ended up making a lot of money. I remember one day we did $27,000 in sales. And that's me coming from a few years ago just being broke, living in my car. And my book business was running on autopilot. I was doing close to $700,000, $1 million some years, completely automated, systematized, and I was teaching people how to sell on Amazon, doing courses with Steve. He taught me a lot about that. Life was good. I remember I took home $7,000 profit, and I remember walking across the street, and I called my dad, who's a high school teacher, or a elementary school teacher. I'm like, yo, I just made $7,000. And he was like speechless. And I couldn't fucking believe it either. Like life was too good. And then all my accounts got suspended. Amazon didn't like the way I was running my business, and we can get more into this during the after party or some other time. But I'm not gonna dwell on this, but you guys know Amazon would never suspend your account for no reason, right? Yeah, exactly. So, no, I might have been doing something a little shady, but back then it was like a big deal if you got your account suspended. So, that happened, and then I had a jiu-jitsu accident. I head through some 18-year-old kid here in Miami, and my lung was punctured. My lung was shrinking. I was in the hospital, and I get notification that my wrestling coach died. And this man taught me everything. Like, he taught me how to be a man. He was a wonderful public speaker. He could introduce somebody like no one would believe. He would make you feel like the fucking shit. It'd be like after a wrestling match. He'd be talking to some parent. He'd be like, hey, this is Chump Boy Avery, blah, 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 second in stage, just saying all this stuff. And you'd leave with the biggest head ever. Like, this was the man that taught me so many lessons in life. And so I went from having a profitable business, doing $1 million a year, automated, selling courses, to nothing. And my wrestling coach died, and I was in the hospital with a broken lung. Shout out to Cowboy Keith, who's here. He flew down from Nashville, Tennessee, and stayed with me in the hospital then. But I started thinking, I'm like, I got to restart this business from scratch. And I'd already done one Miami Sellers Conference, and I'd seen all you guys making money. And so I'm like, okay, maybe books isn't my path because Amazon doesn't like the way I was scaling my consignment business, but I know there's a way. And it was hard. I saw other people in the community making money, but I decided not to quit. I said, it was just too hard to quit. I saw young 20-year-old kids making hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of them $100,000 a month. And so I decided I'm going to partner with other sellers to sell on their accounts. And even then, I kept going and things just kept not working. And I thought I'd get in a job. I remember I was driving to Nashville one day and I'm like, this is all so stressful. I'm on YouTube, everyone's looking up to me. And, you know, my book business is gone. I have nothing to show for it. And if I ever did get a job, I'd become a dog trainer, probably. I don't know anything about training dogs, but that would be my job. I never worked a job in my life, but when you know things are bad as an entrepreneur when you start thinking about jobs. I had this feeling, though, and I thanked the whole community because I saw everybody making money on Amazon, and I knew if I kept pushing, I could do it. And so I did all the work to grow my business. I networked with other sellers. I emailed hundreds of suppliers. I posted on social media. I found new people to partner with on their Amazon accounts. But mainly, I networked with other sellers. This was my bread and butter. And this year, me and my partners have done over $100K net profit in a 30-day period. This is via GoToLister. It tells you your net profit, by the way. Go visit the booth outside. Appreciate you guys. And I have a SaaS company that runs on autopilot and will for the next decade. Between these two sources of income, I'll make more than a physician this year. And if you would have told this kid that selling used books on Amazon would have been the vehicle to making money online at scale to financial freedom, he definitely would not have believed you. I mean, he was crazy. He thought he was going to make something work, but used books, no fucking way. So doing all the right things, sourcing products is important. Taking notes, learning how to find products, the nuts and bolts, all the speakers, you know, they have YouTube channels, they have courses. A lot of them will share that today. But what worked for me and what I believe will work for many of you is building relationships with other sellers. This is invaluable. I remember when I was coaching that wrestling job. I still coach there, by the way. I do it as a passion now. But back in 2018, I was trying to make a living from doing it. And I was listening to an entrepreneur outside and just on a podcast. And he said, hustle hard. If you're going to hustle hard, don't hustle hard at a job. Don't even hustle hard working on your business. Hustle hard on the networking side of things. And that's what I did. I paid to go to events. I posted like crazy on social media. I talked to as many people, and here's what all my hustle got me. A circle of close friends that are millionaires or quickly on their way to be. Several huge weekend book deals. We would have weekend book deals where I'd make 20 grand in a weekend, and it was all because of the connections I had in my network with other sellers. Profitable product ideas and suppliers. Who here has ever gotten product ideas from somebody else? Say I. All right, you guys need to step that up. You guys need to start using SellerAmp to storefront stock more. I met my developer for GoToLister via Instagram. I have a network of Amazon sellers that I share products with to buy in my wholesale business. And hell, even this conference and other conferences I do are a result of me stepping out of my comfort zone and meeting like-minded sellers. So this is how I hustle hard on the side of networking. I post my journey on social media. I connect with as many sellers as I can. I solve their problems. By the way, guys, there's no secrets in the industry. If you think you have secrets, they're not. One guy's secret is another guy's like common knowledge. And so if you have something you think is really valuable, share it with the right people. And if you share your problems and solutions with other people, if you help other people make money, you're going to make way more money than you would ever imagine. And so I encourage you, even before the alcohol hits, when you're talking with people, share what's working with you currently in your business. I golf with them. Shout out to Caleb, even if I suck. I rock climb with them. I just do things I ideally enjoy. I'm a human, and it's not all about the money, guys. Like you can do this. You can meet people. You'll find people this weekend that are millionaires, but it's not worth it to connect with somebody that you don't want to be with. Be like on the inside. So find people that share your values. Find people that you jive with. And I promise you, there's so many out there. Like Taylor's probably like 1 in 1,000, a wrestler selling on Amazon, traveling the world. But if you guys put yourself out there and talk, you will meet friends that are making money. And people always say this, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And if you have friends at home that aren't doing this, your mind is not going to be thinking the same way. So it's very important for you to have a circle of friends who are always thinking of different ways to make money. I'll call Steve and we'll talk for an hour about different things that are working in our businesses. I can't do that with my friends back home. I still love my friends back home, but it's important to shift your mind and surround yourself with talent in order to make it easier for yourself. We got some kids here squatting up at an Airbnb. That's something else you can do. Go to other Amazon conferences, Amazon Accelerate, AMZ United. There's a lot of good conferences out there. And this is the number one thing. I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but if you can focus on this, it is going to make your life so much easier. Guys, let's welcome Taylor Jones. This event wouldn't exist without him. 5th year in a row. I promise you we would not be here if it wasn't for Mr. Taylor Jones.
All right, how we feeling, Miami? Woo! All right, come on, guys. We got to bring a little bit more energy than that. How we feeling, Miami? All right. So, I am humble enough to admit, guys, I am not going to be the tactician, strategist, private label, wholesale gurus. We got a plenty of other speakers for that. But the 2 things that I want to do today, I'm going to share a brief story from how I went from an employee to an entrepreneur. And I just want to share with a couple stories to equip you guys how you can absolutely take the most advantage out of this weekend, okay? So who's here because they want to make more money? Raise your hand. All right. That's also why I started with Amazon. And real quick, before I get into the story, this weekend is not just about Amazon. This weekend, it's about becoming the people that we came here to be, right? And the truth about this journey, let's be real, like this path can be lonely. There's people here that have gone through account shutdowns. There's at least been 5 times in my business where I genuinely thought I was going to go bankrupt. I've had to ask my dad for money. I've had to look for friends. I had 90% of my catalog shut down 6 months ago because Amazon decided that they didn't want to let me sell a brand, okay? It was from someone I met in this room who told me to keep going, and I got that brand back a month later, okay? That is why we are here, for those 2 reasons. To become the person that we know that we can become, and to be able to lean on this community, because we do not have all the answers. I wish I did. I wish I could lock myself in my room, and do my own thing. So, okay, this was little Taylor back in 2018, okay? Who's here working a job they don't like? Raise your hand. Okay. Well, actually, less people than I thought. That's good. So that's me working a utility pole inspector. I graduated in 2017 with a business degree, and I had 7 different jobs over the next couple of years. Completely lost. I was a bellboy at a hotel. I worked at a restaurant. And here's one thing that I think all of us in this room can relate to. Despite being broke, I was depressed. I had no business. There was something that was the most real thing in my life. There was a feeling in my body that I knew I could be doing more with my life. I knew I had this potential to do something more, but I had no idea what that looked like. Okay, and that is the main thing in my story that I want you guys to connect with, that this room is a flower of opportunities. Okay, there's people that have mapped businesses, that have mapped the software, TikTok shop, like whatever you guys want to do to make money, to create this lifestyle, that can be accomplished this weekend. So that was 2018. Fast forward to, this is 2025. I didn't map that. This is my beautiful wife, Diana. Sadly, she cannot make it today. There's my little sweetheart, Adelina, my three-month-old. Let's give it up for little Adelina. So... basically we moved, my wife and I got married last year. We live on the ocean here in Hawaii, and I'm living a dream. I genuinely wake up, I work a couple hours a day, I look out into the ocean, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm not kidding, guys. I look out into the ocean and I think to myself, I cannot believe this is my real life. And that is, and I want to say this is a really important part of why I'm so passionate about e-commerce is we're not just here to make money, right? We're here because we want to create a different lifestyle, right? That's why we're here ultimately. Like, money's great, but we want to be able to do the things that we want to do when we want to do them. And I mean, that was how I did it, was I just kept going. I went from RA, 2 years of retail arbitrage. I jumped into OA. I met Avery, and I learned about getting a virtual assistant, and I failed and failed and failed. And here I am today, and doing about 3 to 4 million annually on Amazon, about 50-50 wholesale and private label. And yeah, I'm using a prep center. So, and to wrap it up, this room is your gold mine, guys. And you all know that. You already paid the money to be here, so I don't need to teach. I don't need to share that with you guys. But I hope that you take advantage of that. I hide nothing. Whatever you want to know, I'm happy to tell you about private label. I'm really excited about private label. I think that where the arbitrage is, it is getting harder with certain things. I think that private label is a great opportunity. And so, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to my story, and thank you so much. Yeah.
Guys, big shout out for Eric and Sebastian with Amazon Lit. Ecom Profit Path.
Viciously, I make history instantly. Those other lame ass loser ass niggas, they can't fuck with me. I'm doing my thing now to lamp later on. Paid in the shit with some fly gators on, but now I'm grimy as they get. Mud on my pants and shirt. I bet you niggas out here know I be putting it work. Gonna be on Titter. That's all my eyes can see.
What's up, everybody? How we doing today? Okay. First of all, shout out to the hosts of this event. Could we give Romer and Avery a round of applause? And then can you give all of yourselves a round of applause for showing up and participating? So anybody don't know who me and Sebastian are? Raise your hands. Okay, that's fantastic.
Great.
Anybody never sold a product online anywhere and came to this event for inspiration? Okay, you are the most important people in this room. Could everybody give these two people who just raised their hand a round of applause? So, Sebastian, you want to give just anybody who maybe raised their hand didn't know us a little background history about, who we are and maybe how we met. Don't take it too far back, but.
How about I start with where the business started? So,
yeah.
Business started in 2013, and like what you heard from Avery and Romer, it was through the grapevine that we heard people were going to Costco's and BJ's and Sam's Clubs, these big box chain stores, purchasing products and then selling those products on Amazon. Couldn't believe it, but I heard about it. I was working as a waiter at the time, and I was just tired. I was in the hospitality industry since high school, and so I said, you know what, let me go all in. And I'm an obsessive person, so I literally quit my job, I think, the next week, started collecting unemployment, and took my $2,000, purchased whatever I could randomly, without any product research, no YouTube videos, just went in the store, purchased products, opened up an account, and tried to sell them. That's how the journey began, in a basement of a home that I was renting at the time. Eric, who I've known since high school, I told him about the opportunity. He decided, he wanted to try it as well with me, and so that is where we began. Had absolutely zero knowledge of it, didn't know where we were going to go with it, but we just jumped right in instead of the opposite, which a lot of people suffer from analysis paralysis, where they keep doing research and waiting for that perfect moment. Truth is, the perfect moment is never going to come.
Yeah, so when we first started getting rocking in this business, we were little kids, right? We were in our mid-20s. We had no fucking idea what we were doing, but we were hungry, and we were broken, and we were broke. So it was like, we got to go all in on this and give it a shot. And now we've been doing this for a third of our lives. I'm about to be 40 in a couple years. Sebastian, I'm not going to disclose his age, but he's around the same age, right? So for a third of our lives, we've been building monster fucking Amazon businesses. And we've helped a lot of you in here through our programs build monster Amazon businesses. When we met a lot of you, you had absolutely no idea what you're doing on Amazon. And now some of you that we work with are selling 7 and 8 figures a year, which is super impressive. Super impressive. So you came here with the spark, right? You had this thought that maybe if I go to this event, I could fucking learn something that can change my life. And I promise you that can happen here. Right? But you got to be attentive, and you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get all these nuggets of information from a dozen different speakers and a dozen side conversations, and it's your goal to just take a few of those and take them home and implement them. Right? Because you can come to an event, I do it all the time, I learn a lot, I leave with a notebook full of notes, and then you get back to the grind. It's so easy to get caught up in that operator role, because a lot of you are probably still operators, right? If you're not working every single day, your business doesn't grow. Who's stuck in the operator role right now? A majority of you. The goal is to be an owner, but you can't skip the operator role and become an owner overnight. You have to put in the years and work like Sebastian and I have.
Well, here's the thing. I think for anyone that's in here, what happens is you come to these events, you learn, and then you go home and you don't apply any of them. You don't take action. When I was telling our story, I didn't say, hey, we learned a lot of information, and because we learned it, we made money. That's just not how it works. It's about taking action, taking risks. The more risks you take, the more chances of being rewarded for those risks. But sometimes, as you heard the first two speakers, our hosts, speak about, there's going to be losses. There's going to be times where you feel like the whole world is crumbling under your feet and you have to make a decision. I've seen throughout the decade of being in the industry, many decide to give up. They quit. They go back to a 9-to-5 or jump into a new industry, while there's many others who go through those same challenges and then decide to persevere.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference. It's not that one's smarter. It's not that the other one had more money. It's just one decided to quit. The other one said, I'm going to keep working through and find a resolution.
Yeah. So today we're going to cover for anybody doing wholesale or brand direct partnerships at all, show of hands. All right, anybody want to kind of branch it to wholesale because you know you can get more inventory, lower pricing on your products, or maybe even branch it to some brand direct accounts where you own 100% of the buy box. Imagine owning 100% of the buy box and not having to compete with the rest of this people in this room.
Eric, why don't we explain, maybe there's some people who don't know the difference between wholesale and brand exclusive, brand direct.
Yeah, so wholesale, to keep it as straightforward as possible, you're buying large quantities of inventory from wholesalers, distributors, and suppliers at discounted pricing. So instead of like arbitrage where you're sourcing 5, 6, 7, 10 items at a time, you're buying hundreds of that same item for cheaper than you can buy it at the store or on your retail websites.
What wholesale allows you to do is, instead of investing all of your time for money, the amount of time that you spend inside of retail stores arbitraging is the amount of possible money you can make. Now all of a sudden you could scale that and you have the multiplier effect because you have your suppliers working with you. So they're providing the products rather than you having to find them. Now you could scale through and gather all this information through a catalog and then find products that much faster. Everything in business is multiplier effect. The more people you network with, the larger your team becomes, the more suppliers you have, the more multiples of money you can make per hour, per day, per week, per year. That's just the way it works.
And on the brand direct side, right, you're now partnering with brands directly to represent them as their exclusive Amazon seller on Amazon.com. So it's a full, almost agency strategy, right? But the way we do it's a little different, where we're not charging a service fee. I want to buy their products at the lowest wholesale price and manage all of their Amazon listings, their ad strategy, their optimization, every single piece of their business I want to manage. I want to buy the products from them and be the sole exclusive seller. It's fucking next level. Right? It's next level. It's the safest way to sell on Amazon. Not that arbitrage isn't cool. I mean, that's the space we started in. Not that wholesale isn't cool. We still do 75% of our $60 million a year business is wholesale. That's where we drive a lot of our brand directs from. So we're going to cover securing the foundation of your business, maximizing your margins. We're going to dive into 11 different discounts you can ask these suppliers for that most people don't even know exist. And then we're going to cover scaling with strategy, branching into brand direct.
Woo! Fucking go. You want me to take it?
Yeah.
Okay. So step one is securing an account. So first of all, many people just don't know how to lean into this and how to speak to a potential supplier, wholesaler, distributor. All of those are different terms for the same thing. So when we're reaching out to suppliers, it's important that we first do our research and look for value, right? What value can you provide them? If you want to grow a business, Eric was giving you the scale of value. We call it a value ladder. OARA, then wholesale, then brand direct, then maybe private label or brand direct private label are in that same category because you're providing more value. Your business becomes more valuable and therefore you can make more money. So when you're starting off and securing an account, it's about what value can you provide them. And many don't do research on the actual suppliers they're going to reach out to, or don't prepare themselves about what value they could actually bring, or don't even know what value they can bring. And so they set off with a poor first impression. They have zero understanding of the industry, and the way that these suppliers who have been in the business for 30, 50 years look at them is like, oh, this is just a hobbyist. This isn't a business. I'm not talking to a business person. I'm talking to somebody who has a hobby and might interrupt my business if I work with them.
Yeah, and one of the biggest mistakes that new sellers or existing, really established sellers make when trying to open wholesale accounts is they get virtual assistants from overseas to blast fucking email these suppliers with some generic whack-ass template. And I own a wholesale company. I get these templates. Me and Sebastian, we laugh at these templates because they're a joke. They provide absolutely no value. It's, hey, I'm a new Amazon seller, or I'm doing X amount and I can spend X amount of money. There's nothing in that email that stands out and makes you special. Also, stop emailing them. Pick up the phone and call them, right? Email's a great way to follow through with the phone call that you made, with the message that you left, with the conversation that you had with somebody at the company, but emails aren't getting you far anymore, especially with a room. In this room, we have 200 Amazon sellers. On Amazon, there's over 1 million sellers. So think about how many emails these companies are getting, right? You can't be using virtual assistants. It's not a set it and forget it. As an owner, as an operator, you should be the person communicating with these companies because you understand the business.
And in 2025, there's no excuse that you can't figure out how to differentiate yourself. With all the AI tools out there, you bring up the problem of, hey, I'm an Amazon seller trying to grow my business. How do I differentiate myself with suppliers? And look at the results you're going to get. And then you could go more granular into that and build out different pitches based on the supplier's niche or category that they're in.
Yeah, and really, this is all about consistency, right? So quick little story. We work with a brand now that maybe does $3 million. It's a brand direct account. It started as a wholesale relationship. We were buying the inventory from some of these big national distributors, right? And I saw this guy, Brian, who's one of the big sales rep at this company. I saw him at Expo West. If anybody's ever been to Expo West, I saw him at Expo East. It's another trade show. I saw him at Sweets and Snacks Expo. I saw him 1 million times at all these events over the course of 2 years, right? And every time I saw him, I walked up to him and I said, hey, Brian, are you ready for me to sell your products online yet? And he would always look at me and say, absolutely not. I'm not. I'm not confident in your ability. I'm not ready to give you the account. But what did I do? I stayed persistent. I went to fucking 10 more events, and every time I saw him. And soon we had a friendly, almost joking relationship where I walk up to him and be like, hey, Brian, you ready yet? He'd be like, nah, not yet. One day out of the blue, he calls me maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We've been managing his account since then, right? $3 million a year, one brand, 20% margins. Life-changing. So a majority of your success in the wholesale game is about consistency. You're going to reach out to 100 suppliers, and maybe 3 or 4 of them are even going to respond.
Right. And remembering that it's all about scale, and it's a snowball effect. So for anyone OARA, it's always the first deal that's the hardest to find. Anyone who's doing wholesale, it's always that first supplier that's the most difficult to lock down. Same thing goes with brand exclusivity. It's always going to be the first brand that's the most difficult. Once you have one, then it scales because now you have a reference that you could go back to, and you have a solution that you could go back to that's worked. So remember that when you're trying to be persistent and you keep getting no's, The first one's always going to be the most difficult. After that, it gets easier.
Yeah. So now we're going to cover some ways that you can negotiate better pricing with these suppliers, right? Because I know a lot of you on the arbitrage side, you're buying. I talked to a guy last night who's like, I just bought $700,000 worth of gift cards. Like, that's what? That's crazy to me, right? But like here, you need to buy gift cards. Not that that's not a good strategy if you're doing arbitrage, but the way you communicate and the way that you understand the industry is the way you get better pricing. So Sebastian's going to cover the first, and then we're going to go back and forth on these 11 ways to maximize margins with discount. Sebastian, hit him with number one.
So one of the best ways, first of all, is to lock down brands, not only lock down margins or get better pricing, is speaking with them at shows, because typically what happens at trade shows is you get to meet some of the decision makers, those people who are deciding whether they're going to give you an account or not. The second thing is to incentivize people to come to those shows. They're going to give you better pricing. Why? Eric mentioned we have a wholesale company where we've exhibited at trade shows, and you spend a lot of money to exhibit. I mean, we spent $30,000, $40,000 just for a tiny booth at a trade show in Vegas. Well, if I'm spending that much, I want to make sure I'm bringing in new customers. So they incentivize by giving you these show deal prices, which will usually only apply during the show deal. So going 2 different trade shows throughout the year, which is a quick Google search in every category. You got all the categories inside the bar of Amazon search bar right there, and you could literally take those categories and then go to Google and search each one individually for trade show in your region or trade show national or trade show for your state, whatever it is, and you will find different conventions and conference centers that hold trade shows throughout the year.
Yeah. And if you can't make it to the trade show, act as if. Email the company, hey, it was great meeting you at the trade show. They're not going to remember you. They met thousands of people. It was great meeting you there. Can you send me over a list of your show deals, please? Right? Discount number 2, ask for weekly and monthly promotional sheets. Most suppliers have them. Most suppliers don't share them off the rip. You got to ask for them. These deals help you lower your cost of goods and save money on the products that you're buying, right? But if you don't ask, you don't know. So immediately today on your phone, please, after we're done talking, hop into your Gmail or whatever you use for email and email your supplier. Hey, it's been great growing this relationship. I want to spend more money with you. Can you send me your list of monthly or weekly promotional sheets? They got them. And if they don't have them this month, they might have them next month or the following.
Any authorized or authentic supplier is going to have promotions. So the way that it works is the manufacturer wants to incentivize customers to purchase their product versus their competitors. So what they do is they run promotions to the distributor or the supplier, who then runs those or passes those promotions to the retailer, aka you. So that's the way promotions work. And if you build out your portfolio of suppliers, you could have promotions running throughout the year. We have certain brands that we purchase wholesale where we'll purchase it on promotion from supplier A in the first quarter, supplier B in quarter 2, C in quarter 3, and so on. So we're always having a reduced price, giving us the competitive edge against other Amazon sellers.
Yeah. Now the next promotion number 3 is shippers. Anybody ever bought a shipper before? It looks like this. You've seen them in the aisles at stores, right? They're typically, when you walk up, it's a showcase of products, and it typically has anywhere from 3 to 7 to 8 different types of SKUs in it, right? But when they run these shipper deals, you're getting maybe 36 of this product, 72 of this product, 84 of this product. So it's an assortment of products, and you got to analyze the shipper as a whole, because those shipper deals, they'll sell you these. Right, Sebastian and I, we've had hundreds of these shipped to us. I don't own a ShopRite or a Walmart or a retail store. We've had hundreds of these shipped to us. And you got to analyze the shipper as a whole, because it might have 5 different products on it. Maybe you're crushing it on 4 of them, and the one you're not making any money. Right? Analyze the shipper as a whole, because if that deal is still profitable, buy that shit. Hit him with number 4, Sebastian.
I'll hit him. So what happens in the supplier world is like any business, right? You want to get as many customers as possible. You want to bring in as much money as possible. How do you incentivize your customers. You're the customer to the supplier. How do they incentivize you? Well, unfortunately, some of your reps don't do a very good job of letting you know, but 99% of suppliers have these tier-based deals. The more you purchase from them, the bigger the discount you're going to get. But the thing is, if you're not bringing it up to them, they may not bring it up to you, especially if your sales rep is getting commission. They're thinking maybe small picture and trying to make more on a smaller chunk than letting you know you could get a reduced cost once you hit these certain tiers. So bringing up to your supplier, hey, do you offer volume tier pricing? I'm looking to purchase larger quantity of this brand or whatever product it is you're currently purchasing, but I want to know more about your volume tier pricing.
Yep. Number 5, double up with line drive. Sebastian just touched on this briefly before. So every manufacturer provides special discounts depending on the distributors and wholesalers that they're working with. And typically they rotate those discounts. So supplier A might get the discount for, let's just say, Nature's Bounty, right, from January to February. And then supplier B will get that same discount from March to April, and supplier A won't have it anymore. So if you have multiple supplier accounts, you can shop the products that you buy on discount all year round. It's a game changer.
So the way that it works, and the reason why I keep going back to the way it works, because I think it's very important not for you only to see the watch, but understand how the gears inside it work. So the way that it works from the macro side is, why does a manufacturer give different deals to different suppliers at different times? Because if they gave it to everyone in January, first of all, it would just kill their budget. And so instead, what they do is different suppliers get different deals at different times. So it's your job to have multiple suppliers that sell the same product. If let's say you want to do home and kitchen and you got one home and kitchen supplier, you shouldn't be satisfied with just one. Go find the others, their competitors, because they're out there, and make sure that you have multiples. First of all, besides just the line brand deals, you could also use them against each other. Hey, I could get this product from supplier A for this price, but you're offering it for this price. Can you do something better?
Yeah. And then we got get a discount for clearing their shelf, right? We call this in our industry the take-all discount. A lot of suppliers, sometimes they don't initially share the inventory quantities they have, the case quantities they have in their supplier catalog. If you have a great relationship with your account rep, ask them to provide the list with the available cases that they have, right? And let's say you want to buy 100 cases, but they have 144. Say, hey, I'll take all 144 if you could give them to me at X price. Name your price. Don't wait for them to give you a price. Name your price. I need it at this price. Maybe they'll meet you in the middle. Maybe they'll match it, right? But if you don't ask, you don't know.
There's certain products where we cleared it off the shelf just to help the supplier, because we knew later on they would help us on other products. So one hand washes the other, and building those strong relationships allows us to be in front of our competitors and get that competitive edge, because anytime they're running a small deal on something that they want to liquidate or discount, the shelf pull that Eric was mentioning, they're reaching out to us first because we've helped them in other scenarios where they needed to move products maybe with low expirations or for whatever reason.
Yep. Now we got to negotiate better discounts with bigger orders. In the next slide, I'm going to show you exactly how this is structured. But essentially, when you have a supplier relationship and they're being maybe questionable on pricing, what you're going to do is put together 2 orders, and each order is going to be, one's going to be larger than the other, and they're going to come in at different price points, right? So the first order is typically going to be called what's an MOQ order, minimum order quantity. Let's say it's $3,000, small order. And the second order is going to greatly exceed it. So here's an example here, right? This is the original MOQ order. Right here we got 25 cases, 16 cases, 25 cases, 28 cases, and these are all higher price points, 22, 33, 34, 26, right? This is a larger order. This is the second order, the increased quantity order. You're going to email them both of these Excel files in the same email. This one, what's it got? 68 verse 25, 40 verse 16, 72 verse 25, 84 verse 28. And what's it got? Negotiated discount case pricing. And it's broken down right here. The discount per case for the first item is $258 per case. Second item, $361. Third item, $667. And fourth item, $306. That's an 11%, 10%, 19%, and 12% discount just by submitting a larger order. Even if they meet you halfway, you're saving thousands of fucking dollars. Thousands of dollars on this order.
So I think it's really important to know that even though most suppliers say that, they don't negotiate, they don't discount, if they do say that to you, they do. When you provide volume, they will. It's just if you're only reaching their MOQ, you're not going to. But there's certain ways all the big box stores, retailers will use this same method, whether it's what Eric just showed you or whether it's, agreeing to something called a commitment. A commitment is where you'll say, hey, I'll purchase X amount over 6 to 12 months. That way you're not putting it down right now and putting all that money out, because I know one of the biggest hurdles for Amazon sellers is obviously capital and cash flow. So you would agree, let's say you typically purchase $240 per month. Well, you'll agree to, hey, over the next 12 months, you'll purchase 2,400 units. It's that same amount, but you're agreeing that you're going to purchase it month over month. And because of that, they're willing to give you a discount because they go up. Your account rep goes to their supervisor, executive, whoever it is, says, hey, so-and-so's willing to purchase this amount over the next 12 months. Can we give them a better price? They say absolutely.
Number 8, hit that FFA threshold, free freight allowance threshold. Sebastian, how many suppliers do we pay shipping with that we do business with?
0.
0 suppliers. I don't pay for shipping for shit. I don't want to pay for shipping. I want to order a big enough order where the supplier pays for shipping. Ask them what their FFA allowance is, their free freight allowance, right? Hey, how much do I need to spend where you cover shipping? Typically, every supplier will have an MOQ. That's just to get in the door, right? But shipping on a $3,500 order may be $800. That's going to greatly increase your cost per item. Right? Greatly. It might be an extra 50 to 70 cents per unit. If it's a 3-pack, you're talking an additional $2 on the unit cost. That's absurd, right? So ask them what threshold you need to hit to get free freight allowance. And sometimes they might meet you in the middle and say, hey, if you spend X, we'll cover 50%, you cover 50%. And if you hit Y, we'll cover 75%, you cover 25%. And then when you hit Z, we'll cover 100%.
So if you can reduce the cost for the supplier, it's going to reduce the cost for you. So Eric touched on this FOB origin versus FOB destination, but I want to touch on one more thing in here, which is if your supplier is willing to sell you units versus cases, well, then that is another incentive for you to bring up for reduced costs if you're purchasing full cases or full pallets. Because you could imagine, put yourselves in their shoes. In any relationship, strong relationship, you need to be able to put yourself in your partner's shoes. So put yourself in the supplier's shoes. If they have somebody inside that warehouse who has to pick individual products, is getting paid the same amount hourly, most likely they're losing money. Or they're not making as much. If you're willing to come to them and say, I will buy in full case quantities, not in eaches or unit amounts, or I will even buy a full pallet quantity. Makes it much easier for them to pull that stock and ship it to you. And because you're reducing their cost of labor, they should, if you work with them and pitch it correctly, reduce the cost to you.
Yeah. So FOB, origin versus destination. Origin basically means the buyer, you, pays for shipping, and as soon as it leaves the supplier's warehouse, you're responsible for any damages to those products. Destination means the supplier's responsible for shipping, and they have full ownership of the inventory until it arrives at your warehouse. It's very important to know what the shipping method the supplier is using, so you know who's responsible for those goods in transit. So if something shows up to your warehouse damaged, you know how to communicate that properly.
So the next one is locking in discounts on pre-orders and special orders. For our suppliers that offer seasonal products like Christmas, you already missed out on the Christmas season. Christmas orders have to be placed in March. So you have to be mindful of speaking with your suppliers about their seasonal items and when they offer it. Why? Because they then have to provide that to the manufacturer who does a limited run. They have to set it up on their schedule when they're going to run those seasonal items, and they don't want to overproduce because that's going to be costly. So in March, those suppliers provide those seasonal, probably by the beginning of April, they'll provide those seasonal items, what they want to order, to the manufacturer, so the manufacturer can produce it in early summer, June, July, so that you can have it by October for the Christmas season.
Now this next and final discount. First of all, who got some value out of these first 10 discounts here? Okay. Who's using some of these? Who's just heard of these for the first time? I asked 2 questions.
Yeah.
And the same question.
So everyone should have put their hand up.
Everybody's hand should be up. So this is my favorite type of discount. It's the relationship discount. How do you build a relationship, right? It's so much easier to build a relationship with someone when you see them in person. How do you grow an in-person relationship with your suppliers? You ask what trade shows they're exhibiting at. Right? You go meet them, you ask them out to lunch. When it's their birthday, you buy them fucking Yankees tickets, right? You invest in the relationship the same way. A lot of you have friends and girlfriends and spouses and moms. Do you not invest in those relationships? Why are we not treating business relationships the same exact way? Right? Me and Sebastian, we built some of the best relationships with our suppliers. We know when they have a kid. We know when it's their wedding anniversary. We're sending them gifts. They're sending us gifts. We have lunch with them at least every other quarter, so we're meeting with them frequently. It's an absolute game changer. And now we're going to dive into scaling with strategy. This is where we get into the brand direct part.
See, wholesale has been great for a long time, but it comes with, I would say, wholesale comes with a lot more risk than the brand exclusives, the brand partnerships like Eric was talking about, because now you have control of the listings. Now you're also building value for your business because you will have contracts with a brand. And if any one of you out there is thinking, hey, I don't want to do this forever, potentially maybe want to exit my business, well, anyone who's coming in to purchase it, I'm thinking long-term for some of you, but listen to me here because you want to think about this from the beginning. Anyone who's going to come in to purchase it is going to know what long-term contracts you have set up so they know that they're cash flowing and building capital if they come to purchase you. You're building value for your business, you're building value for yourself, and you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. Wholesale's the gateway drug, right? The name of the game in the future would be brand partnerships. But like I said at the beginning, 75% of our $60 million a year business is still wholesale because we leverage those wholesale relationships to understand how these brands sell on Amazon. So when we're ready to pitch the brand for an exclusive deal, we understand how the marketplace works for those brands. Because how can you know return rates if you've never sold a product before? I don't think there's any software that provides return rates for a specific SKU, is there? Anybody know of one? No, you have to physically sell the product first. So those are all integral parts to securing that brand exclusive relationship. So this isn't a brand direct account that we have, but this product used to crush for us until a bunch of creators wanted to sell their $27 Discord. This product was printing $45,000 a month in profits for us, right? And this is just an example of one of the issues that you face when it comes to arbitrage, wholesale, whether you're doing retail or online, right? You're looking for these opportunity buys, and the opportunity's good when it's working, and then all of a sudden it disappears. So this is just a small example. And this $45,000, $50,000 a month in profits didn't have an impact on our business. And the reason why is because we have dozens of brands accounts that made up for that shit. And I'm going to show you some of them right now.
This is the brand that Eric was touching on earlier that he was working on for 3-4 years to try to lock down the deal. And this is just one of the products from that brand that we work with what, 50? Products in there?
Yeah, probably 40 or 50 products.
40.
One product. This isn't the brand in total. This is one SKU.
This is one of the SKUs. So the opportunity is there, but...
Yeah.
It's already in there. But
go to my Instagram, comment Rich on one of my videos, and I'll send you the ASIN.
So here's the thing. So persistence will allow you to get here. We didn't get here overnight. We've had our Amazon business for 13 years now. Started back in 2013. In July will be 13 years. We worked to get this brand locked down for 4 years, hearing no. It's not like we were thinking that maybe one day they'll say yes. We just kind of went into robot mode, which this is what we do, and we just continue to ask, hey, you ready now? Yeah. This is another one. Because of that relationship, it led me to a conversation with somebody else where I was able to lock down this toy brand. You could see where it really spikes in December there. But this is one product from this toy brand. And if any one of you know about toys, we're talking 30-35% margins after advertising on some of these toy products.
This is one SKU, one fucking product. This isn't the entire brand. This is another product from that toy brand. Sebastian, give a little info on this one.
It's the same toy brand. It's basically a different model. It's the Amazon exclusive version. But the beauty of this is these are single sticker items. And what we do is we have them print the sticker, our FN SKU label, on the boxes. in China before we bring it in. We are not the manufacturer. We just work directly with the brand, so we have the relationship to communicate with the manufacturer, and then it gets shipped to us with the F and SKU already on there.
Yeah. Now, this is a new brand account Sebastian secured about 8 months ago. This one's projected to do about $400,000 in annual sales at probably 18 to 20% margins for our company.
And the cool thing about that is full circle, when we started the conversation, I said we started in retail arbitrage with big box stores. That's one of those big box stores' private labels. We now have a contract going on for it's a 1-year contract. We're going on, I think, month 3 or 4 of it. But from the first big box club store that I was walking in doing retail arbitrage with, now I have the brand exclusivity for their private label.
Right, so with the experience that Sebastian and I have attained over the years, we're talking big box stores like Walmart, Costco, BJ's are fucking giving us their products to exclusively sell on Amazon. That's the name of the game. That's the level that you want to get to. And a lot of you were like, shit, I'm years out from that. That's cool. Keep putting in the work. It will happen if you continue. Right? So locking in brand direct accounts takes a clear and concise strategy. You can't just fucking wing it. But most sellers don't have the experience or knowledge to secure even one brand, let alone 30 like we have. Right? How many people would like to secure at least a few brand direct accounts in the next 2 years? It would be game changing. That's it? Who doesn't like money? Let's put your hands up here. All right, so who likes money? Okay, so there we go. That's a little better. Right? So we'll show you exactly how to find, pitch, onboard these brand direct accounts into your store so you could start printing cash within the next 2 to 3 months. All it takes is a concise strategy that we're going to provide you step by step. Some people are charging $10,000 to teach you this strategy. And you can learn this exact process that drives $10 million in month or an annual revenue for our business for just $387. But even better, because you came to this event, all you have to do is use code MSC40 and you can get 40% off of our exact strategy we use to onboard $10 million worth of profitable brand deals. It's a game changer. And why is the QR code not there? Oh, there we go. So step-by-step strategy, and here's the thing, this is only available today. So if you lock in tomorrow, it's fucking gone, right? If you DM me, hey E, I was sleeping in the back, my buddy told me about it, it's gone. 40% off, use code MSC, and here's the thing, I didn't even share this yet. You get 24/7 support from me and Sebastian, 9-figure Amazon operators to walk you through this strategy once you're watching the modules and you have questions about, hey, I'm about to lock this brand in. I don't know. What do I do? They told me X. Here's the solution. Provide them this information. You'll lock down the deal. You have our support 24/7, 365 days. Lock this shit in if you're serious about scaling. We appreciate all of you. I want to see you win. Thank you for having us, Avery and Romer. Thank you for having us guests. We'll be here all weekend. Please pull us aside. Come say hi. Ask us your questions. And additionally, comment rich on any of my Instagram videos, and I got something special for you. For anybody who doesn't know, here's my non-QR code Instagram right here, but ecom.profitpath. Love y'all. Stay lit.
Stay lit.
Heck yeah, give it up for Amazon Late, guys. Good, appreciate you. Let's give it up, guys, for Mike Resendez, Reezy Resells. One more time. Show of hands if you guys started selling on Amazon because of Reezy. Let's get it, guys.
So this is my pops. He passed last October. It was really tough for me. That was actually one of his favorite songs. The photo on the left is right when he got out of prison when I was in 3rd grade, which is the first time that I met my dad. And this is a picture of him playing guitar. And we look freaking damn near identical. It's freaking crazy. But yeah, shout out Pops. He did his best. So I'm gonna leave this image up, and I'm just gonna run through my presentation here because it's mostly just notes for myself. So basically, guys, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the internet. And I don't know how many people agree with that. And I'm not talking about like just here. Just because I come from such a limited upbringing, I didn't have a lot of options, right? Like I'm a digital immigrant. I used to have to read the encyclopedia when I wanted to learn something. Like some of you guys are not old enough to remember that. But the internet gave me the opportunity to learn, right, and to access information. And I started reading a lot of books and eventually found out, that you could sell books, right? So when I was 4, my parents were in jail, prison, divorced. Throughout my childhood, my father was either drunk, high, on some kind of drugs, or both. At age 5, I'd already lived with every single family member that would ever take me and got shifted around, and was also in multiple foster homes at this time. Growing up, food stamps, welfare, government health care. When I did live with my dad after 3rd grade, he neglected me a lot, and I was a bad kid, right? Like, I got in trouble every single day at school. We lived in hotels, and my dad's van. I think he had one apartment in like 4 years. He had a trailer at one point that he would pull behind his van, and we would just park wherever we could, a parking lot, by the railroad tracks, wherever someone wasn't going to bother you. During that time period, I would spend a lot of time with my friends staying at their house if they would let me. Their parents were pretty accommodating. They knew the deal. So, like I said, I was a bad kid, and when I did have a place to stay and I would get in trouble, I could get grounded. And I remember being grounded and then reading books. Like, I read every book that was in my room because I couldn't go anywhere, right? And I even read the Bible, right, 10 years old. And great stories, by the way. But I realized, I was like, wow, I felt like I hacked being grounded, right? I'm having so much fun. like I don't even need to go outside. I got the whole world at my fingertips, right? So reading is very integral to, my life. And I got in a lot of trouble when I was younger. I was shoplifting when I was like 8 years old. I was, drinking alcohol and doing drugs when I was 12 years old. I remember when I was 12, I could leave and stay at someone's house for 3 days and not even tell my dad, and he wouldn't care. Oh, you're back, cool. Eventually, I ended up in juvenile hall for fighting at school in middle school, and it's just a scare tactic. You're supposed to come pick your kid up, right? But my dad was on a bender, and they couldn't get a hold of him. And it was like 2 weeks later before they got a hold of him, so they started investigating him. And I remember telling the therapist at juvenile hall, because they tell you it's all confidential, and so I started talking about some of the drug usage my father was doing. But I didn't know that I basically snitched on myself, and that is confidentiality, but not if a child is in danger or something. And so then they investigated my father, and then instead of being able to go home with my father, I ended up in foster homes and group homes, which is like prison for kids or whatever, home jail, for like 9 to 10 months. And it was a really terrible time. I didn't feel like I deserved to be in those places. I was there because of my parents, and they had all these rules and stuff, and I didn't like it. And so I basically locked myself in my room. That 9-month stretch turned out to be almost 3 years with various foster homes. But I basically told everyone to go fuck themselves, locked myself in the room, and just read as much as I could for 3 years. I probably read every single Star Wars book ever made. Because they wouldn't let me go to the library even though I was grounded, right? And so, again, hacking all that stuff. But at age 14, 15, I ran away from a foster home to go live with my father. But when I got there, he said the cops were already looking for me there. So I ended up taking a bus to live in Kansas with my sister, who had eloped, because my family's from California. And eventually my sister became my legal guardian. But I have to tell you, as a coastal California resident, being sent to Kansas was basically like being sent to hell. I mean, no offense to anyone that's from Kansas. I got love for that rectangle as well, but hell might be better than Kansas. Trust me, if you've ever driven through the state, you know what I'm talking about. It's just flat. It's the whole thing. But getting sent off to Kansas, which at the time I thought was the worst thing that had ever happened to me, turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, because that's where I met my wife. And it ended up having, my first child. So I met my wife in 9th grade in high school, and by the time, 3 months later, she was pregnant, and ended up having our first kid when we were 15 or 16. And there was a bit of a Romeo Juliet situation with our families. She's Hispanic, her parents are Catholic. I'm the crazy güero that just, got their daughter pregnant and ruined their life and whatever. So there was a whole bunch of stuff. And on top of that, when my daughter Alyssa was born, which some of you guys might know, she's 24 now, but she had a complication. She had a rare birth defect. It's called a tracheal esophageal fistula, and it's a deformation of your esophagus. So her esophagus was a dead end. It didn't connect to her stomach. And so after she was born, she's basically drowning in her own saliva, and they're trying to aspirate her and jam tubes down her throat, but they won't go down, and they don't know what to do, so they x-rayed her, and she ended up spending her first 2 weeks in a much larger hospital, took a helicopter ride, neonatal ICU, all that stuff. She ended up being a perfectly normal, healthy child, but I have not cried that hard since that time. If you've never been in that situation, you are powerless. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a surgeon. I remember when the surgeon came in, and I was like, dog, like, you got this, and I probably didn't say it exactly like that, but I remember he was an Indian doctor, and he was like, my friend, I have done this surgery 100 times. I could do it in my sleep. And I was like, bet. I felt so much better after that. I don't know why. I just feel comforted with Indians make me feel so comfortable. I don't know why. But something happened, and after we got out of the neonatal ICU, we were actually staying in the Ronald McDonald House for 2 weeks, and we get out of the neonatal ICU, and her mom will not let me come over to the house to see my own child. So the first 3 months of my child's life, I barely saw her. Like, I would take my wife to school. Our high school had free daycare, so that was a plus. So I would see her in the morning, pick her up, drop her off at date. We used to skip school sometimes just so we could hang out as a family. And I tried to call the cops on her, and they were like, look, your wife's a minor, so she lives at home. Her mom makes all the shots, I had nothing to do. So, but I wasn't going to give up, right? And so I got on the computer. I asked Jeeves, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably under 35. I asked some probing questions, and I learned about common law marriage. And this was early internet, so the data was very, very incomplete. And so I ended up going into the law library section of the library and just started pulling books and just reading. And eventually I found what I was looking for. And this was a Kansas state law that said men and women in the state of Kansas could get married without parental consent and be emancipated legally as long as the woman was 14 and the man was 15 or older. That law has changed since. All states in America had a law like that at some point because during the westward expansion, there was no churches. So how are you going to get married? So they made that common law marriage, right? If the public believes you're husband and wife, you are husband and wife. That's basically the definition. But I got lucky with that, so I photocopied it, took it to a lawyer down the street who said it was legit, paid him $75. His secretary was the witness, and we were now free to live on our own. And I served my sister the next morning. Moved into my friend's bedroom. His mom let me go and live with them. I dropped out of high school the next day and took my GED. Got a 98%, by the way, without studying. So then I started working full-time. I was telemarketing. It really sucked, but it was cool because there was like tiered pay incentives. So if you make $8 an hour, but this was in 2000. But if you work really hard, you could literally make $20 an hour. So that was kind of cool. And eventually I got an apartment. And the day I got an apartment, my wife's mom did a full 360 and was like, you can take her. From like, you can't even see her to you can take her. And that was us starting our family. And so we didn't have a lot of money. I was working all kinds of random jobs. I remember I worked at IHOP. I was an egg cook at IHOP. And so I signed up for government aid because where I come from, that's what you do, And so we're getting medical and food stamps. And the first thing the government does is like, hey, welcome to the program. Thanks. Here's your assistant. But by the way, we're legally obligated to prosecute your wife for statutory rape since she was 16 and you were 15. Because Kansas has two ages of consent, 16 and 18. So that went on for like that statutory rape case, ended up going to court for like 10 times across 2 years. They keep pushing it back, whatever. If you've ever went to court, you know what I'm talking about. And eventually this one judge was just looking at us, and we have our child is with us, and we're in court together, and was like, you guys are still married? Case dismissed. Like, you're doing a good job. So, but, you know, that was something we had to deal with. I started taking eBay a little bit more serious in this time. And I'll never forget ever. Back then I was so enamored with selling stuff for like 1 penny, or auctioning it for 1 penny, you know, and seeing what it would go for. And I was selling everything that I could in my house that I didn't need. And one thing that came on the target was my books, my Star Wars books. And I was getting them from the library at one point, but then I started buying them for $8, mass market paperback, every time they come out. I'm at the bookstore the day it comes out. I was addicted. But I sold them starting for a penny, and I thought it would go for, you know, not much, and it went for 70% of the retail value, like 8 times 0.7 times how many books I had. And I was like, holy shit. I couldn't believe it, right? So that was stored in my brain database, and it didn't, you know, come into play later. Eventually, I saved enough money to move the family back from California, and my firstborn daughter was able to go to the same kindergarten that I went to, which that was pretty special for me. eBay was growing. We're getting to I'm making like $500 a month, $800 a month, grocery money, you know what I mean? Selling at the flea market, yard sale, random stuff, games, toys, electronics, just stuff I knew about, you know what I mean? I wasn't doing too much software. I would look stuff up on eBay, but it was a lot of stuff that now is a lot harder to find. You know, like back then you get a Super Mario Brothers 3 for $2 at a garage sale, and that's like a $25 game. So eventually, through going to thrift stores a lot and developing a route in different stores I would go to every day, and you know, you guys know what I'm talking about, I realized I would see people who I didn't know at the time, but they were selling books on Amazon. They would have shopping carts full of books. And I thought they worked at the thrift store, and I would be like, hey, can I look at those books? And they'd be like, no, these are mine. And I'd be like, what? You don't work here? No. What are you doing with all those books? Silence. Crickets. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God, they're fucking making money. Like, they gotta be making money. Why would an adult male give another adult male the silent treatment? Are you serious? And so that is literally, that person fucked up. They could have just oh, I just sell shit on Amazon, and I would have been like, cool, and moved on. But because they gave me the silent treatment, I was like, don't you fucking dare do that to me. Like, I know what you're doing, you know? So it took me a while to figure it out, to be honest. And back then, if you would search scanning books, how to scan books, this was 2004, the only thing that would come up would be how to digitize books. How you scan your books you rent from the library so you can read them forever, right? And so there was no YouTube videos, the iPhone wasn't out, there was nothing. And so I would press people, but they would silent treat me, right? And then I changed my strategy to try to act like I cared a lot less when I would ask those questions. And eventually, I seen a person who must have been from out of town at one of my thrift stores scanning books, and it's a nice old lady. And I was like the very low-pressure, non-aggressive ask, like, oh, what are you doing with those? You know, like, with all the stupid books, you know? And like, oh, I sell on Amazon. I was like, really? I didn't even not know what Amazon was in 2004. I didn't have a credit card or a credit score. I wasn't buying shit online, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, what's that app you're using? And they told me the app. And at the time, then I went on the website of the software, and they had some training stuff. So I learned a little bit. It was mostly trial and error, though. I remember, this is really hilarious. The first month of selling books, I was like, what price should I make them? I was listing them. And also, I was blind buying books, too, so I didn't even know what would sell. I was buying them for $5 a bag at the Goodwill outlet, and I was like, I think this will sell, like, whatever. And then I'm like, what price? And I'm like, okay, well, there's 10 pages of offers. I'm going to go on the 5th page, put my price somewhere in the middle, you know? Nice middle price, not too high, not too low. Guess what happened? Nothing. I didn't sell anything. And to this day, I don't know why I didn't realize it. I think because I don't buy a lot of stuff online, especially then, I lacked the self-awareness from the consumer perspective. But my brother, he's like on the spectrum a little bit, and he just like pops in and he's like, why don't you try making it the lowest price? And I'm like, I want to make more money. And he was like, yeah, but you got them all for like $1. And I was like, oh, you're right, cool. I put everything for the lowest price. I wake up the next day, sold 70% of all the books I listed. I was like, okay, here we go, right? And so in the first year of selling used books on Amazon, I put $100,000 in the bank. I made a huge mistake, made a $10,000 mistake. I sold 10,000 plus units as an individual seller, not a pro merchant. So as you know, I paid an extra $1 for every one of those sales. And at that time, I really could have used 10 grand. That would have been 2 cars for me, maybe 4. Because back then we would buy hoopties, and it would last till like the next tax return or the next one. I'm telling you, I come from the struggle. So ultimately, I figured it out, right? And I'm starting to list books, but I didn't have enough money to buy all the books I wanted. I could buy bags and bags and bags of books every day, but I could only afford to spend $5 a day. And so I came up with this crazy idea to convince my wife to let me use our $500 a month grocery budget. And in 2004, $500 was enough for groceries. Not anymore, right? And so I was like, babe, if I had this 500, I could buy so much more books, and it's going to 10x the growth of the business. And she believed in me. And I was like, look, we can go to churches and get food. Like, there's food banks. Like, I know how to do this. I grew up in all, we go to this church on Monday, that church on Wednesday, that church on Thursday. Like, you figure it out. And if we need to, we can go eat at the homeless shelter. There's 3 meals a day. We only ate at the homeless shelter once. But, my wife always believes in my crazy ideas, and that's so important to me. Like, find someone that believes in your crazy ideas, you know what I mean? So within 3 months, we saved up enough money to pay a couple months of bills, and I was confident that if I could not have to go to my 9-to-5, I could be making even more money. And so within 3 months of starting selling books on Amazon, I quit my 9-to-5, which was a skate shop. I was making $1,500 a month take home, and that's the most I ever made working for anybody else. And I'm so thankful that I didn't ever make $100,000, because growing up I thought that was, you're rich, and I think I would have got stuck in a trap. I would have been like, oh, never leaving my corporate job or whatever. So it's too funny how life works out, right? So year 2.5, FBA came out.
Yo, do you want to change your slides?
No, not really. They're just text. Unless you just want to read them.
Sure.
Yeah. Are you tired of looking at that, man? It's just text. This would be boring. Yeah, right? Like, I could be that buff. I just am not. Right? But when you're bored and you have nothing to do but read and lift, that's what happens. So within 2.5 years of starting, FBA came out. Got an email. Hey, we got this FBA thing. We'll store your inventory for you, sell it, Prime, buy box. I didn't know any of that stuff, right? I was just scanning barcodes, listing stuff, selling them, etc. And so I started sending stuff to FBA, but at first I put barely the pinky toe in, because all I was buying was mass market paperbacks that when you scan them, they would be 1 penny, right? And at the time, you couldn't modify your shipping on Amazon. Everybody had to have $3.99 shipping. You could not change it. It was not an option. And so the lowest you could price a book was a penny. And so they were pricing these books for a penny with $3.99 shipping and making money off shipping. I was sending them to FBA, charging $4 and getting prime positioning every time. And I'm talking like I went from, we would sell a book for $4, merchant fulfilled, and it would pay out $1.35. And these books weigh like 6 ounces. And you could fit a gazillion of them in a $5 paper bag, which is where I was buying the books from. And so that was our foray into FBA. That turned into me taking textbooks from my competitors who would throw them back because they didn't want to buy them. They're profitable, but they weigh 5 pounds. So you make $1, buy it for $1, make $1, it's 5 pounds. No one wants to deal with that, right? But the FBA price was $25, $65. $80. And so I started buying the textbooks and sending them in and then being completely blown away. And then on top of that, then I started looking at fixing the market by like scanning books and being like, it only makes me $1, but new is like $40. And if I buy these 6 copies, it's now gonna make me $8 a copy. So I started buying books and like fixing the market like that and then sending them into FBA so I could raise the buy box price. And we went from buying like a few bags of books every day to buying like 10 to 20 bags of books every day. And my competitors were not yet selling on FBA. And so they were asking me what I was doing with all those books. Now I was the one being tight-lipped. It's pretty funny. In hindsight, I wish I would have had more self-awareness to realize the opportunity of the arbitrage that was available back then. Obviously, online arbitrage of books is still great, but back then it was phenomenal because most people didn't know what FBA was. Like literally, they just sent out an email to everyone like, hey, we started this thing, FBA. They didn't have a huge promotion about it, you know? So I think most of my competition didn't even start selling FBA for like another year or two. And that was a huge advantage. So one day, I'm at the Goodwill outlet, I find this book called Crush It. Scanned it, it's not worth money. I almost threw it back, but something about it made me want to read it. The title is kind of cool, Crush It. Like, all right, maybe person who made this book might be kind of youthful or cool, and it's about cash in on your passion using social media. And it's black and green, which reminded me of money. So I'm already like, maybe I'll keep this one. I had already realized I had started reading a lot more books because I had access to books. So I was bringing them home, reading them all the time. Like, why is this book $40? Better read it to see before I sell it. Like I would do that all the time. And so then I turned the book over and there's a foreword from Tony Hsieh, RIP, the CEO of Zappos. And I had just read his book, Delivering Happiness. If you haven't read Delivering Happiness, buy it right now and read it because it's the story of Zappos from, his living room to being acquired by Amazon for whatever. And it is so crazy. At one point, they fired everybody and had like 4 staff living in the CEO's house with him, using dividers and stuff, and like couldn't pay them at all. Was like, I'll pay your bills, you eat and live at my house, and you'll get equity. And they turned down like a $10 million offer at one point when they were broke, and then Amazon bought Zappos, right? So really, really crazy. But I read that book in one day on the toilet. I get off the toilet. And I was like, wow, this is the blueprint. This guy literally tells you everything you need to know, right? And I wanted to do social media and make videos. I'm a skateboarder, so I've been making videos. But my idea was skewed. I thought I was going to be like a Casey Neistat or something, like vlogging, right? Because I was like, people are chasing this guy around like he's the Beatles. He just edits video. This is wild. But then I read Crush It, and I was like, no, you idiot. You have this knowledge locked in your head that you could share with people, and they'll appreciate you. And at the time, I knew everybody I was the youngest person. Like, I think Rakin was the only person on YouTube when I started that was not over 50. You know what I mean? I'm talking like most people were like over 60, and I'm looking at it like I can't relate to these people. Like and they're selling $5,000 courses with information that should be free. Like, and back then I didn't believe in selling information because I had never purchased information myself that leveled me up. I didn't come from that culture of knowing that you could hire coaches or, you know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't instilled in me. But so that night I started Reezy Resells. I made sure I could get that on everything. My last name is Resendez, which is why I went with Reezy. Alliterations are great for marketing. Reezy Resells, bought the website, everything. Started making YouTube videos, and I remember I made $100 AdSense revenue in my first month of doing YouTube. And I was like, this is unbelievable. This is insane, right? $100 from making videos. Didn't have to invest any money. This is insane, right? And so I knew how to shake Gary's hand, meet him personally to thank him. And eventually I did make it onto Gary's show a couple times and actually interviewed him on my podcast. That's a whole nother long story, but I made it happen, right? It was something I said I was going to do, focused on it, made it happen. after my YouTube started to grow, I began to meet and earn the respect of other sellers. So not necessarily people that needed to learn from me, but people that saw what I was doing and appreciated it, and maybe they would share it with people when people asked them, like, how do you do what you're doing? Oh, go follow Reezy. You'll figure it out, you know? And one day someone was like, hey, Reezy, why don't you sell shoes or Nikes? Your account's probably pretty old and you probably can. And I was like, you could sell Nikes on Amazon? Like, at this time, I still hadn't bought anything off of Amazon. And I just didn't know what was there. You know, I knew they sold books and CDs and DVDs, and maybe I sold some board games because I scanned the barcode in the same place, but I wasn't thinking fourth dimensionally, you know what I mean? And so then I started getting into retail arbitrage, and that really blew my mind away. And I liked it because I was like, wow, I don't have to put dirty books in my car. You can make more profit per unit. Like, yes, it's more risky, and there's risk associated with it, so you got to learn how to manage your bad buys, because with books, you don't have to. You could just throw them away. Who cares? But yeah, retail arbitrage, that's when everything changed for me. So I did a little bit over $5 million in used books, and then the next over $5 million was all retail arbitrage. So at that point, you know, I'm making videos, and if you follow my content, you've probably seen some of that stuff. So we're not really going to get into that stuff. But how it's going now, so I've been selling on Amazon for almost 20 years, maybe a little over 20 years, actually. I quit my last job in 2004, never looked back. I'm able to be the sole breadwinner while my wife went back to school to finish her schooling, and so she now has a bachelor's in music education, and she does what she loves. She part-time at a private school and then does in-home lessons. We bought a house in California. It was $875,000. I liquidated. I had to put $275 down because, you know, we don't have proper, as entrepreneurs, it's a risk to get a loan, and so you have to balance sheet loans and all this shit. But anyways, we got a studio in there just for her music. It's fucking amazing. We've been married for 25 years, 2 beautiful, healthy daughters. My older daughter is now 24, and my younger daughter, Luna, which some of you might remember from videos when she was like 5, she's 13 now, which is freaking crazy. I started the YouTube teaching in 2016, currently almost at 500,000 subs, and made almost $500,000 in payouts from YouTube AdSense alone. So it's like a little over 450,000 right now. I'm able to call myself an international public speaker because I've spoken in the UK, I've spoken in Canada. Like, that's pretty crazy, right? I went to Italy. I had my marriage anniversary on the Eiffel Tower one year, and like, that was facilitated by me working in the UK and then just going, it's like $200 to go to Paris. Let's go to Paris. You know, like, I remember I got a call. It was like, hey, you want to do this thing in UK? I'll pay for you to come out. I'll give you a little bit of bread, like whoop-de-whoop. And I was like, fly my wife out and it's a deal, right? So since then, I'm going to go speak in the UK in 3 weeks, and we're going to go back to Italy for 2 weeks. But I've had the privilege of speaking in Europe 3 times, and it's going to be 4 now, which is, a kid like me was not even ever supposed to like go to Hawaii. You know, like, I had a business in Hawaii for a decade. I've been there bazillion times. I've went to Hawaii for 10 days and not set foot on the beach once because I was there to work. You know what I mean? Like kids like me were not supposed to do that, you know, let alone like fly on an airplane and go over the ocean to other countries, or, you know, like, make a change in the world. You know, like, I feel like I am. That's what the path that I'm walking, you know. Obviously, interviewed Gary Vee. Family's doing good. In December 2023, I started a high-ticket mentorship program, which is, it's not a coincidence that I started that program right after I bought the house, because I was pretty broke. And so that was the straw, not that broke the camel's back, but it was, I had realized that, yes, there is value in teaching people directly, and the people that I teach directly, it's different. It's so much different than teaching on YouTube, because on YouTube, I just put it there, you pick it up or you don't. It's all different, you know? But with teaching people directly, you have to motivate them, you have to inspire them, you have to show up, you know? There's there's a lot of different stuff with that. But in year one of running that program, I was able to do $300,000 in course revenue. And if you know like what course revenue is, it's like 99% profit. It's like YouTube AdSense. There's no cost of goods really, right? Maybe some email services or whatever. And I'm not saying that to brag. I consider it accomplishment. And as someone who considers himself a teacher, I mean, that's why it's an accomplishment, but it's just a whole new level of teaching, working directly with people compared to working on YouTube. And I'm just so thankful for the students that have come to me and the results that I've been able to get them. And, you know, it's life-changing for people to do 100,000 in sales on Amazon year one, even though it's only 20 or 30,000 profit, but be able to, one of the two people in the relationship was able to quit their job or scale back. You know, and the husband's coming home next year after they grow it even more. And now they're going to have kids, you know. Before they were, how are we going to have kids? We work full time. We don't have any savings, like blah, blah, blah. So it's a whole new journey for me, and I really appreciate it. And just to all of you guys, I want you to know that you're not alone, you know, in experiencing hardships in life, and that your struggle is your story, right? Your mess is your message. And I want to finish with a quote that I saw a couple months ago, and it just said that everything's okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. All right, so I totally forgot that I was going to do this, but last at Books and Beyond, which is another amazing conference that all of you should go to, don't miss that opportunity. That was the first time that I told my life story kind of like this, right? But because I've always done tactical stuff when I do speeches, because that's what I want, right? That's what I always wanted. But I started sharing this, and then last year, people came up and they were like, yo, Reezy, thanks for sharing your story. Dude, you should write a book. Have you ever considered writing a book? And so I started considering it. And over the last year, or last 6 months, I've been planning it out using AI to iterate. How do you say that? Iterate. Different, whatever. It's in progress, and I have a rough draft of chapter 1 that I would like to read for you guys. Is that okay? All right, cool. So, all right. Chapter 1, Under the Semi and Into the Unknown. The world tilted, metal screamed, and then everything went black. I wasn't sure what had just happened. 1 minute, I was dozing off in the back of my Aunt Nancy's boyfriend's tiny Italian convertible, the California sun warming my face. The next, I was staring up at nothing. I sat up, my heart pounding, and realized we were wedged under a semi-truck. The windshield was completely ripped off. What just happened? I remember thinking, my 5-year-old mind struggling to grasp the situation. It was my first day of kindergarten, and apparently I had already cheated death. A nice truck driver helped tow us out, and a friend of a friend drove us the rest of the way to town. My aunt was mortified when I excitedly recounted the tale to my kindergarten class. The school even investigated her afterwards. Little did they know that this was just a taste of the chaos that would define my early years. You see, kids like me weren't supposed to make it. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was a bad kid, a product of the system. Food stamps, welfare, government health care, you name it. My dad was in prison until I was in 3rd grade, and my mom was in and out of jail during those years battling her own demons. Drugs, alcohol, and violence were the normal in our household. Stability was a foreign concept. We moved constantly. I remember I attended 4 different schools in 3rd grade alone. Foster homes, group homes, juvenile hall. I'd seen it all. Home was wherever we could find it. A car, a hotel, a cramped trailer. Hawaii was a mythical place that rich kids went on vacation. A world away from the reality of scrounging for scraps in my world. The only trips we took were to the curb, hoping to find a discarded TV that my dad could fix up and flip for our next meal. Looking back, those early years were like a crash course in survival. I learned to hustle, to think on my feet, to find opportunity where others only saw hardship. Little did I know those same instincts that helped me navigate the streets would later become the foundation of my success. It wasn't all bleak, though. My dad, despite his flaws, had a knack for electronics and a rebellious streak that, in retrospect, I realized I inherited. He saw opportunity in discarded technology, just like I would later find in discarded books. And my Aunt Nancy, with her thrift store, opened my eyes to the world of art and the thrill of finding treasure in unexpected places. Even the car accident, as terrifying as it was, instilled in me a certain fearlessness, a sense that I could overcome anything life threw my way. As I embarked on my journey through the chaos of my childhood, I held on to these glimmers of hope, unaware that they were quietly shaping the man I would become, a man who, despite the odds, would find his way from food stamps to freedom.
What up, guys? Avery here, host of Miami Sellers Conference. Just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder that you can book your tickets for next year, Miami Sellers Conference 2026. That's crazy. How time flies. This is going to be our 6th year doing it, and tickets are never going to be cheaper than what they are now on the website. So get in, and I recommend getting the full package, the yacht, the after party, the general admission. All of this is an experience, and we only get better as time goes on. You can go to the website and check all the testimonials, but we'd love to see you there. I'd love to meet you in person. And again, ticket prices are only going to go up, and if there's one thing you can invest in, what I believe can really change your life is networking and building a network of Amazon sellers who are either millionaires or on their way to be, because your network is your net worth, as cliche as that is. It's just great to surround yourself with like-minded people, and we get the cream of the crop. We get all the talent in the industry at Miami Sellers Conference. So a couple of weeks before the event, people always ask me, hey, can I get a discount? The prices are so outrageous, and we do charge a lot. And right now you guys can get in at a discounted price. I promise you, the week of the event, for everything, it's going to be $2,000 or more. So whatever price you see below, that's going to be the best price. And yeah, see you guys in Miami.